Good morning. I am Jamela Mahagway, and welcome to our public lecture on Buddhist philosophy. To begin our program, I would like to call on the Chair of the Department of Philosophy, Dr. P.J. Strebel, for his welcome remarks.
Thank you, Jamela. Hello, good morning to everyone on Zoom and to the few people who are joining us here at the Escalator at Ateneo de Manila University. If I may just give a little story to the background as to how our guest speaker has ended up in Ateneo. We are indeed indebted to a network of Buddhist practitioners led by Lady in Kuala Lumpur, who is married to an Ateneo alumnus and a close friend, if you know, Father Ariti of the Society of Jesus. And through her efforts, she was able to introduce Dr. Gangodawila to us. We were able to get Dr. Gangodawila to teach in the Ateneo, the University Philosophy Department for an entire year. And I'm telling you this because I remember. This is a microphone, okay. Can you all hear me from Zoom? Okay, I was given a microphone just now. I'm telling you the story because I remember in one of the conversations with Miss May Lim, she even said that perhaps in Ateneo we are teaching Greek philosophy, but no one is really practicing Greek philosophy. I was first taken aback by that because actually I am the one teaching Greek philosophy to our philosophy majors. But I really took it because I guess our main concern in the way that we live our modern lives is that we've lost this sense of integration, that we have separated spirituality from religion, or perhaps even philosophy has become an exercise in intellectual rather than in a spiritual, in a more integrated or complete way of looking at life. And so this is really a call, I guess, to go back to ancient wisdom. Actually, even in the Western tradition, there was a time when philosophers were not really just intellectuals, but really lived a way of life. They even wore robes, and were even called doctors of the soul. But somehow the West has maybe lost that integration. But we can take it back. I guess it's possible to return to that. And I'm sure you will all agree with me that our problem, part of the problem of modernity is really compartmentalization. We no longer see the whole. We see parts and pieces, but we are unable to see the entirety. As much as we could, we would like to understand reality in its entirety. And our talk today, I believe, is one way to come back to that. That our practice is not just about skill, but our practice has to come from who we are, what we believe in, how we see the world, and so on and so forth. And so, without further ado, I guess shall I turn it back to Jamela or with Dr. Gangodawila? Okay, I'll turn it back to Jamela. So thank you, good morning for being here, and I hope that this talk will be very enlightening for all of us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Strebel, for your warm welcome. To kick off our discussion, it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Chandima Gangodawila. He is an assistant professor of Buddhist philosophy in the Department of Philosophy at Ateneo de Manila University, Philippines. He also serves as the associate editor of the Journal of International Buddhist Studies, published by the Buddhist Research Institute of MCU University in Thailand. His academic journey includes being a former research fellow at the Center for Studies in Religion and Society, University of Victoria, Canada. From 2012 to 2016, he also served as the Theravada Buddhist chaplain at the University of British Columbia, Vancouver, Canada, fostering spiritual growth within the university community. Let us all welcome Dr. Chandima Gangodawila for his talk, What Distinguishes Wrong Mindfulness from Right Mindfulness in Early Buddhist Philosophy.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Strebel, for that gracious introduction. Thank you, Jamila, for that MC note. And thank you, everybody. And I know that things have happened all of a sudden, but we have a way to connect. And as Dr. Strebel noted, this was part of my presence at Ateneo. There were two talks that we discussed to have it here on campus, and one talk was conducted by me in March 18. That was about karma and rebirth, mainly focusing on undergrad students. And in this case, for today's public lecture talk, which is about mindfulness, how to separate out right mindfulness from wrong mindfulness, was focused on grad students primarily, but this attracted many, I think, in that. So let us get started our lecture by looking at the topic, what distinguishes wrong mindfulness, micchā-sati, that's the Pali term, from right mindfulness, sammā-sati, in early Buddhist philosophy. Now, before I move on in this talk, I would like to tell you that what is the public perception about mindfulness and meditation. It is very clear that by today, mindfulness has been practiced in a more secularized form, mostly in the West and also coming down to the Eastern side as well, just like the yoga style. And you don't see the yoga, the original yoga that was introduced by Patanjali in the Yoga Sutra. And you can see that the modern yoga movement, perhaps, I mean, for whatever the reason, they may have stripped out certain elements of that original yoga, and then they are presenting. We cannot put blame on them. That is the way. So in the same way, we understand what can we see with regard to the Western secularized mindfulness versus early Buddhist mindfulness. This is the main thing that we are going to look at. Our nexus intersection is that. On that, we are looking at a couple things. Number one is that how has early Buddhist mindfulness evolved into the secularized mindfulness, Western type of mindfulness. Second, how to understand mindfulness and meditation from within Buddhist traditions. And then the third thing is that even this is a very big question for Buddhists themselves. So, I mean, for those people who want to follow Buddhist meditation and their mindfulness, are you really concerned about the early Buddhist mindfulness or the mindfulness traditions that were arisen as a result of colonialism, imperialism, and Western enlightenment? So there are many ways to look at it. So first of all, let us take a look at of a very basic and a conceptual difference. Now, a lot of people use meditation and mindfulness synonymously, but in early Buddhism, there are two things. As you can see here, meditation is the activity, bhavana, that means to cultivate our wholesome thoughts, and while mindfulness is the potential outcome of that activity. So that means it is better to say, I practice meditation, thereby I want to be mindful. Not that I am mindful, I am mindful. So the activity is meditation in early Buddhism, bhavana and sati. I think that's a very interesting observation to see before we get to the right mindfulness versus wrong mindfulness. And this is the very popular definition of secular mindfulness. Secular means Western secular mindfulness. As you can see here, often reduced to present moment awareness and non-judgmental observation, which was started by John Kabat-Zinn at University of Massachusetts in 1990 through his book. This was republished in 2005. So in terms of the Western secular mindfulness, it is mostly something about the present moment. And then if you can manage your present moment without any ethics, soteriological perspectives, you are good, you are mindful. That is the basic definition of Western mindfulness. And what are the strengths of this secular westernized mindfulness? You can see accessibility and universality. You can access from anywhere, even through a mobile iOS app, Google Play Store app, or maybe any other app. And it is very universal. Anybody can tap in, whether you are a Christian, Catholic, Islam, a Muslim, or whoever, you can practice. And the second thing, this is true a philosophical pursuit, pragmatist orientation. Western secular mindfulness has tangible benefits. When you practice it, at the end of the meditation, you feel happy, you feel relaxed. So the right mindfulness through ethics and then the liberation perspective, it will take time. It won't happen in one day, in one night, overnight. So once you practice the Western mindfulness, I mean secular, popular mindfulness, you feel benefited. There are immediate benefits. Third, phenomenological insight. And we are talking lived experience through phenomenology. And when someone looks at this through a philosophical background, phenomenological background, you can see that you can have a certain direct awareness in that lived experience. It won't have to go on and on. Cognitive flexibility and attention control, this is from a psychological background. Clinical applications, MBCT, these are new treatments that have been there for long term. Mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, mindfulness-based stress reduction, which was originally founded by John Kabat-Zinn. And neuroscientific support, Western mindfulness is always talking about neurochemicals, hormone reproduction, hormone discharge, and they understand that if someone can balance out hormones, say for instance neurochemicals, that can even help someone manage dementia, Alzheimer kind of diseases too. So there is a direct support from neuroscience. And then secular resilience building. Normally we in our life we can become rejected, we can become criticized, so people feel very very sad about those situations. But this kind of a secular mindfulness helps those people to bounce back, to be resilient faster. So that's also a benefit that can have it in a short time. What are the limitations of secular mindfulness when we compare a true early Buddhist right mindfulness? Secular mindfulness often omit sila. Sila is the most important addition from early Buddhism with regard to meditation. You can't practice meditation and become mindful without sila in early Buddhism. But there is a certain idea that is from the Western perspective about meditation. You can see Jackson in his one of the articles 2018 mentioned that the cultivation of virtue receives little emphasis in secular mindfulness programs or retreats in Western context. Virtue is sometimes regarded as restrictive and even as contrary to meditative calm. This is something very interesting. When a Buddhist monk is going to teach meditation in Canada, America, or Western country, if they really follow this original perspective, early Buddhist perspective, I have to give you the precepts. You have to now observe precept. What are the precepts? Not to kill, not to steal, not to sexually misbehave, not to lie, not to take any food or beverages to an extent that you will lose your mindfulness. First, any meditator, if you want to meditate, you need to take this precept. It's kind of a honest, self-conscious activity. But the very idea that is with the sila, that means virtue part from the West, is why are you telling us what to do, what not to do? We came here to meditate. Don't give us a do's and don'ts list here. That's the Western, overall, I'm not saying everybody, but the majority idea in the West is that don't teach us virtue, just teach me meditation. I came here only to be relaxed, only to be calm. So this is my very point I'm highlighting here, the basic difference between Western secular mindfulness and early Buddhist mindfulness. And also, I don't know whether you may have read that book, Robert Wright's book published in 2017, Why Buddhism is True, under Yale University. And he mentions that in his own way that there are differences between Eastern Buddhists and Western Buddhists, in particular about meditation. If someone in the West becomes a Buddhist, calling oneself as a Buddhist, that person is definitely meditating, in this Western secular mindfulness. They all are meditating. But if you ask from someone from Thailand, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and some other countries, according to his observation, he might say that not everyone is meditating in that way. That means not all Buddhists are all Buddhists vegetarians? They are not vegetarians, right? But Mahayana Buddhists are vegetarians. So, in the same way, his observation is that Eastern Buddhists don't meditate, which is not a correct observation, because meditation is not you come and sit down and meditate. Meditation is cultivating wholesome thoughts. I can talk to you by meditating about mindful speech. Do I talk good words to you? Do I talk nicely? Do I talk pleasant words? Do I gossip here? That itself becomes a meditation. So the thing is that even secular mindfulness attitude can go even as far as we concern about understanding kind of Buddhist as well. So virtue part is not highlighted in the most secular mindfulness activities. And then, what are the other limitations? Instrumentalization for productivity. This is something very easy to observe. You know that when there are meditation apps, certain virtual activities with regard to meditation, which often, strip out the early Buddhist nature, they become very instrumental, only for productivity. And commodification and commercialization. This is also happening when many people embrace this in the West. It can become a huge, commercialized activity. Maybe you have to spend $1,000 to go for a 5-day retreat in some places. It is not even, expensive for them, because sometimes you need to spend maybe $2,000 US dollars for 10-day retreat. They may have a point, because food is expensive. You have to book the place, and there are a lot of things. When you look at Western mindfulness activities, things have, because of the interest of the Western context, for the peace and then all that, it has kind of been commercialized and commodified. Psychological risk. This is very interesting. When someone practices meditation, just like buying a medication from the over-the-counter counters, without knowing that there is a medication for you, a prescribed medication, If you're going to practice it without a certain monitoring, supervising from a good meditation teacher, you may go through psychological problems. That means even meditation can lead to certain problems if you don't follow a good teacher, right? Because it's not an over-the-counter activity, buying a medication activity. And this is also very interesting. Individualization of structural problems, which means medicalizing issues as merely one's own personal problems. You know, when we are unhappy on a certain day, what if I think that I'm so stressed out? Maybe I have a phobia, I have a disorder given in the psychology, maybe psychotherapy. That means we are very fast in medicalizing our tiny little frustrations. But Buddhism says you don't have to medicalize. You don't have to over pathologize about your situation. Maybe it's a tiny frustration, but then there is a problem. How to distinguish a minor frustration and a major frustration, right? That is up to a psychiatric person. But Buddhism says don't medicalize and don't join activities just because you don't understand about it, right? Some people, they directly go for a meditation retreat just because they have a minor frustration, right? So, I mean, although meditation is good, but you don't have to medicalize, over pathologize your tiny little problems in your life. And another philosophical way of looking at meditation, Western meditation in the form of limitation, is reductionism. You know, I mean, if we narrow down meditation and mindfulness into secular context, it can narrow the very purpose of meditation, mindfulness, epistemologically. If you learn epistemology, we learn knowledge through many means, not in one way. So Buddhist meditation, which will end up in mindfulness, will revolve around calmness, but also freedom. That means soteriology. So those aspects are limited within this secular meditation. There are some more things I will just read. Authenticity versus pragmatism. This is also interesting. Loss of teleological orientation, because it delinks. I mean, Western mindfulness may delink its focus from the very soteriological telos. And maybe sometimes Western mindfulness can present mindfulness and meditation mindfulness in Buddhism through an ethically neutral pattern. Early Buddhist mindfulness is ethically positive. You can't make it ethically neutral. But why they are making ethically neutral? Because the audience would not like to accept it with ethically positive aspect. We don't have to have virtue to practice meditation. And fragmentation of practice and content, this is happening. And more importantly, wisdom part. Buddhism places a high emphasis on panya, wisdom. So why does someone have to practice sila, virtue, to go to meditation? It's because it's a part of wisdom in Buddhism. So sila, which leads finally to wisdom. Even meditation leads to mindfulness, thereby leads to wisdom. Okay, because of the timing, because I have some more slides, I'm going to summarize for you to engage in more Q&A. Mindfulness in contemporary culture. Despite the widespread popularity of mindfulness in contemporary culture, there is a lack of clarity in distinguishing between secularized forms of mindfulness and the early Buddhist understanding of right mind. This is what I am trying to dispel today. The problem is the detachment of the foundations. So Western secular mindfulness is detached. Now you might be thinking, where does Western mindfulness belong to? If Western secularized mindfulness does not talk about wisdom, virtue, that could be probably leading up to wrong mindfulness in a way, right? So I just give you a hint now. I mean, you can just think about it. So what will happen at the end is that by detaching mindfulness from its ethical and soteriological roots, modern adaptations risk misappropriation, reducing it to an instrumental technique for stress management or productivity. I think I already shared that. And mindfulness, which means right mindfulness in early Buddhism's is early Buddhist sutras emphasize mindfulness as part of the Noble Eightfold Path. This is the only path a Buddhist has to follow to become enlightened, wherein which mindfulness is a very part of that practice. We will learn that. The problem therefore is how to differentiate right mindfulness from wrong or incomplete forms and to recover its original meaning for both scholarship and practice. I want to give a certain idea to the scholarship. There's a huge scholarship going on mindfulness studies. There's a journal called Mindfulness under Springer. So it's very important to draw that thin line between Western mindfulness and Buddhist mind, which is called right mindfulness. What are the two problems that we are going to deal with? How do we differentiate right mindfulness from wrong or incomplete forms? That's number one. Second, how can we recover its original meaning for both scholarship and practice? Key objectives of the talk: to examine how the Noble Eightfold Path provides the ethical and philosophical foundation for right mindfulness, and to clarify the distinction between right mindfulness and wrong mindfulness within the framework of early Buddhist philosophy. And also to compare the Hindu and Buddhist purposes of mindfulness, because now we have two things to align with. One is how to look at right mindfulness with Hindu mindfulness, how to look at right mindfulness with contemporary westernized secular mindfulness. You can say sila. Without sila, because sila purifies the mind. I will give you a very simple example. Let's say you want to practice meditation tonight and you are messing up your day. Maybe you might break your precepts according to Buddhism. You might lie to someone, right? Maybe, things like that. Maybe you were taking food and beverages to an extent that you cannot keep your mind alert and mindful. Then you are going to practice meditation tonight. You are not taking the precept just like the Western context. What will happen immediately? All those virtue problems will pop up in your mind. Today I lied to someone. Today I did that. So I don't have the purification to get to concentrate in my thoughts. That's why Buddhism says every meditation practitioner supposed to take precept. You don't have to be a Buddhist. You may be a good person in your own religion, just like how we teach, right, without indoctrinating. By learning Buddhism, you will become a better Catholic, maybe better Muslim person, Islam person, or better somebody. You don't have to become a Buddhist. But the thing is that by taking precepts, it will help you to concentrate. That's why it is said sila, S-long-I-L-A. Sila is the virtue path. Without sila, unwholesome thoughts can cause mental disturbances during meditation. This is what I said. Mindfulness divorced from ethics risks becoming detached from the Buddha's original teaching. This is the problem with regard to Hindu way of mindfulness. Let's take a look. I'm going to quote Chandogya Upanishad 7.6-7. Dhyana is a term for meditation. And dhyana was understood as a blissful state of absorption that seekers aim to attain. So in Hindu meditation, they are not looking for enlightenment through the dhyana. They just only want to be happy. They call it blissful stages. However, the Buddha did not recommend pursuing this Hindu form of meditative bliss, quote unquote, dhyana, as an ultimate goal, cautioning against attachment to such states. It's like someone is, I'm not saying Hindu form is an attachment, but if someone is going to attach to a certain happiness through a certain meditation, then that person will only look for that happiness. It's like a drug addict having used maybe a form of drug, and then that triggers certain parts of the brain and the person wants to get back to that state. I want that stage to go back. That will become an addiction. So then meditation should not be a drug activity at that point, just to make your certain parts of the brain happy. Meditation has a bigger purpose in Buddhism. So according to the Buddha, early Buddhism, these sutras say, yes, you will feel blissful, but don't get caught up with that. You gotta keep going until you hit the enlightenment. That's the plan. That is why we see wrong mindfulness within Upanishadic teachings in that context. But they have their own purpose. I mean, Hindu Upanishad philosophers, when they practice it, their plan is to be merged with the God, Brahman. They believe there is an internal self, inner self, and the Jagadatma, a God self. So they believe when you do the dhyana, one day in that form, your self and the God self will be merged. That is Kaivalya Nirvana. But the Buddhist Nibbana is different. I mean, as you can see even in the meditation. Second, let's take an issue here. Buddhist mindfulness is diagnostic, examining causes of suffering and their cessation. It's like Aristotelian ethics, medical ethics, with regard to Buddhism and Aristotle, which is an article that is coming up in the Buddhi Journal, already accepted, will be published, which I have written the last couple of months. Medical ethics with regard to Aristotle and then the Buddha. In that we understand the diagnosis, both are talking the diagnosis style. So in the same way we look at Buddhist mindfulness is diagnostic. It is not just looking for just kind of happiness only. It helps you to trace back to the root of the problem. We have to get to the bottom of the problem. It's like an iceberg. If you see an iceberg, what part of the iceberg you can see? Tip only. But if it is a problem, supposedly, are you going to make a decision for that problem as a solution just by looking at the provisional fragmented aspect of that problem? I don't think so. You have to see as much as you can see with regard to the problem. Then only you can find a plausible answer for that problem, a better answer. In the same way, Buddhism does not use meditation and mindfulness as a virtual tool or just like a normal tool to become calm. Yes, calmness will happen, but we have to look at why is that stress, why is that distraction coming up within me. Get to the bottom of that. Hindu meditative absorptions emphasize experiential bliss and union with the divine, which is what I just shared with you. Another way to look at secular mindfulness with regard to wrong mindfulness. As indicated in the earlier slides, contemporary adaptations of mindfulness tend to strip away the ethical basis emphasized by the Buddha in his teaching on right mindfulness. The growing popularity of mindfulness apps such as Insight Timer, Headspace and Waking Up. They are very much famous apps. Millions subscribers have been using these apps, which is a good thing. At least there's a way for people to get in touch with this meditation. And the commercialization of retreats exemplify this development. But I think, just to give the intellectual rights, Property Act, with regard to the people who found these things, better to say something about who founded these things. Not that, yes, I found a neutral meditation and I make an app, now you guys buy and use it. I think that is something losing in that perspective. So I think with the apps, although they are very beneficial, we don't say anything wrong about it, but the problem is, are they presenting the true mindfulness for the people? Are they giving the overall understanding if people want to practice or not? That is a question. Problems of wrong mindfulness, you can see, although one may attain temporary peace as exemplified in the Hindu absorptions, this falls short of the deeper purpose envisioned in the Buddhist path. It is mostly looking at the comfort level within the comfort zone, but not the real transformation according to right mindfulness. Now we are moving on to the right mindfulness given exactly by the Buddha in the suttas. You can see right mindfulness arises gradually as one follows the Noble Eightfold Path step by step, with each factor supporting the next. It cannot be attained by skipping directly to mindfulness while bypassing the rest of the path. What do we mean by that? If someone wants to practice right mindfulness properly, one has to start the meditation by following the Noble Eightfold Path, although someone wants to become enlightened or not. If someone cherry picks meditation, directly goes to that particular factor, you can see from the next slide, then that meditation will only lead to a comfort zone, relaxation only. So how to get to the right mindfulness is only through by practicing Noble Eightfold Path factors from 1 to 6, because the 7th is the right mindfulness, 8 is the ripple effect we call concentration wisdom. So I'll be using two suttas, Mahācattārīsaka Sutta MN 117 and MN 141. Satyavibhanga Sutta is our original references. This was a slide fly I made some time ago. You can see the Noble Eightfold Path, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right living, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. And right mindfulness is the 7 Noble Path factors. You cannot get to that directly. So it is said that only when you start with right view, because views are really mattering to us in today's world. Problems happen in our life because of views, political views, social views, many other views are there. And then even social media, they want views for their videos, right? Views are mattering a lot. Maybe they pay people to watch the things too, right? That's why Buddhism says, purify your views, don't attach to your views. If you attach to your views, you are taken away by extreme fanatic views, right? So before the meditation part, one has to purify one's views. When you purify your thoughts, your views, whatever the thoughts, intentions that are arising are wholesome as well. Let's say I purify my thoughts. I'm not going to be a fanatic. I'm not going to be an extremist. I'm not going to be an intolerant person. So then all my thoughts that are secondary will also be wholesome. I can tolerate, I can accept, I can harmonize with other people, I can get together, I can be in many cohorts. So that happens. So then the first thing is purifying my views is an attitude shift, and that will help me to automatically come up with wholesome thought. Once I have the right, what you call wholesome thoughts, whatever I talk will be wholesome too. I never hurt other people, I never lie, at least I try not to lie. I try not to hurt, I try not to slander, backbite, or engage in divisive speech, and I try not to gossip. That is happening. When I am into the wholesome right speech, whatever the physical actions I am doing will be automatically, naturally wholesome too. We will see what those actions are. Then when my actions are going to be wholesome, the way how I make money, my job, my occupation, my vocation, whatever my activity to earn money, freelance, it will be wholesome too. I'm not going to engage in any unethical, because Buddhism places a high emphasis on unethical money, corrupted money, because that is anti-Buddhist. You can't do the meditation even if you are engaged in an unethical work. And when my way of making money, wealth is going to be wholesome, then my effort, whatever my energy management, energy balancing will be wholesome too. We have a word for that in Buddhism called effortless effort. We are not overexcited, overzealous, or maybe over-aroused or under-aroused. Energy is such a very important thing. Because of energy we are here right today, and we are joining this talk. We will discuss that later. So only when my effort will come to the effortless effort, that is the nice space, nice ground for me to enter into the meditation and thereby to attain mindfulness, and that will lead me to concentration. And you can see on this side there are 3 bars: right view, right mindfulness, right effort. Buddhism believes, the Buddha says that in order for us to practice this path, we have to use another 3 paths to support that. Say for instance, now I want to practice right view to get to this path, maybe someone of you. Then do you need to separate out, distinguish what is right view from the wrong view? You need that. You need to separate out. Otherwise, how do I know this is right speech, right view, this is wrong view? So then I need right view as a supportive path factor, which you can see. Now let's say I know this is right view, this is wrong view. I cannot be a fanatic, I cannot be intolerant. Now I know this is right, this is wrong view. Then what should I need? I need to be mindful Why should I be mindful? In addition to right mindfulness here, then only I know this is the place I have to be able to understand wrong view and right view. And then just because you have right view, right mindfulness for one path factor, it is not enough. Then you may be lazy, you may be not into the right energy. You need to manage your energy into doing that action. Let's say I want to be intolerant. How should I become intolerant? Maybe I have to engage in a discussion to show that I am tolerant, I can tolerate. So that means even if you take any other path factor, say for instance right speech, how do I know that this is right speech? I have to separate it from wrong speech. So right view effects. And then just because I know this is right speech, this is wrong speech, is it enough? No, I need some mindfulness to engage in that activity. Speech, right speech. Just because I know that this is right and wrong speech, and I am conscious, does it give me to the fruition of that particular factor? No, I need some effort to practice it. So in the same way, all these path factors are circle around, supported by three other path factors. So that means when someone comes to the right mindfulness, one must have, or one will have practiced a fair amount of the previous 6 path factors through 3 supportive factors. Such a very clear, standardized, formal journey into that right mindfulness. On the both sides, you can see the 2 extremes in life: self-mortification, overindulgence. Buddhism always denies to be an eternal somebody, thinking that self-mortification, harming body will give you the enlightenment. Don't harm your body, and don't indulge so much. People who indulge so much might reflect nihilism, annihilationism. So these 2 are extreme ends. But when you practice the Noble Eightfold Path, these 8 factors, you are in the middle path. You are not falling into self-mortification and overeating. So you can see that right mindfulness is situated in a very beautiful place in Buddhist teachings. Let's take one by one. I'm not going to explain all that. You can see sammā-sati, right view, has 2 perspectives. That means if someone wants to practice right mindfulness, one has to start from there. There are 2 aspects, secular and supramundane perspectives of right view. The most important thing here is that you can see the noble right view on this side, that is relevant to an enlightened person. Let's say someone's becoming enlightened today. From today onwards until you die, your right view sammā-sati is enlightened noble right view, or noble right view. But if you are unenlightened, your right view will be the next side, the other side. We call it mundane right view, tenfold mundane right view. If somebody is interested, I can share the slides later. And then sammā-sankappa, right intention. You can see there are 3 intentions: intention of renunciation, letting go; intention of non-ill will; intention of non-cruelty. These are very important intentions. These are only arising in someone who has the right view. So it is connected. When you have the right intention, right speech is complementary. You can see there are 4 right speeches: abstaining from lying, abstaining from slandering, abstaining from abusive language, abstaining from gossiping. I mean, when I'm saying complementing, you have the background to practice it, but it doesn't mean you will practice it correctly. That is where you need to bring those 3 supportive factors to do individual aspects of right speech. And when you have the right speech, you are able to get into right action: abstaining from killing, abstaining from stealing, abstaining from sexual misconduct. These are the 3 right actions in the Noble Eightfold Path, which are leading up to right mindfulness. This is also very interesting. Now, when you have the right action that is leading you to practice right living, how to make a living without getting into an unethical business. So Buddhism says, do not scheme, do not flatter to earn money, Then you might think, well, what about marketing? We have to flatter. Right? That's an interesting question. Everybody who's doing marketing, they have to, I don't know whether they flatter or maybe they truly value about what they are selling. But if you are going to overvalue, maybe misvalue your product, you might be a part of wrong living. That's why we have to be carefully marketing the products, the subject of marketing. And then no hinting. Sometimes some people are using some language to sarcastically hint certain things because I want you to come to that point. So you can't buy this product even you go to any other shops, you will come back to us and we will sell you for $5. But the person can go to many shops, but they are hinting in a way you cannot find it. You only can buy the product from our store. Right? So Buddhism asks not to do such kind of activities to make people take people for granted for their own income, and then no belittling. Don't blame other people, and thereby someone wants to make other people shameful about something, and then to pay something, then to buy certain products of them. And finally, no pursuing gain with gain. Using certain narratives before, I did that before, maybe it was not real, I sold 1,000 stuff, but it's a good product, you can also buy. Right? Using a fake narrative about a product, a service, and then pushing the customer to say it was well received in many places, on websites, social media, so you don't have to worry about it, you buy it. But maybe it's a fake way of promoting the idea, using previous gains to take it. So right living must also happen before meditation. Now this is right effort. That means the Buddhism talks about how to put forth the effort. There are 4 ways to do. Prevent your unwholesome actions, remove your unwholesome actions, innovate your wholesome actions, and maintain your wholesome actions. How do I say in simple example? Prevention. Let's say you are such a very kind person and you are not getting angry that fast. So you don't have to become affected by a new friend to be angry. So you get to know someone who is very angry later on, and then thereby when you associate that person for a couple of months, and you will be affected. It doesn't mean you cannot associate that person, but that association might bring certain behavioral changes. So you are thinking, I'm a good person already, why should I be affected by this person? Right? So preventing non-existing unwholesome things. And let's say sadly you are affected now, you become very mad, sad, grumpy very fast, then you have to know that I have to remove it. I have to watch how am I getting angry, how am I getting frustrated in my life. So remove, you need effort for that. And the last 2 are about good side. Now let's say I'm a kind person. Is it enough? No, I have to innovate my kindness. How can I become kind differently? In my life I've been kind to people. How can I be kind in different ways? Not like how I became kind before. Maybe is there a way how I can go an extra mile and help other people? I helped in a certain way last few years. Maybe now I think I have to extend my way of being kind to other people. Right? So how can I do it? I have to innovate. I have to create new forms of skillful habits, wholesome habits in that. And maintenance. Just because I am kind, it doesn't guarantee I can never become unkind. I have to maintain it. Like students, scholars, we all have to maintain, right? Everybody has to upgrade skills, update skills. Things are changing rapidly, right? In the same way, our goodness must be maintained. So this is called right effort. This is the most important part. You can see now, as a result of right effort, someone will be able to practice meditation, thereby mindfulness. And Buddhism, the Buddha talks about 36 exercises under right mindfulness. Don't worry, you don't have to practice all that. So you can see that there are 4 frameworks. Mindfulness of body. Someone can be mindful looking at the body, certain things of the body. Mindfulness of feelings. Someone can be mindful looking at one's own feelings, emotions. And someone can be mindful based looking at one's own thoughts, and someone can be mindful looking at the phenomena, conditioned phenomena, what's happening in the universe. Let me tell you a hint. Buddhism presents that you might think about meditation as a fine tuning of your thoughts, but Buddhism looks at thoughts as abstract structures, pretty hard to control sometimes, manage. But Buddhism says if you can manage your states of emotional states, mental states at the level of feelings, you can do them easier than when you handle them at thoughts level. Because every akusala state, unwholesome state, has an indication through breath. Think about when you are becoming angry, can you observe certain differences with regard to your breathing? If you really want to see that. But normally you are not looking at them. You are looking at what should I do now? How should I talk to that person? I should make a mess today, right? You are looking at how to react, being on that autopilot. But what about being able to look at what's happening to my breath? I'm having a loss of my breath, my voice is losing, I am trying to a stutter. I can see a lot of things. That's why Buddhism says if you can look at the feeling part with regard to your mental states, you can manage your mental states easier than you are catching them at the abstract thought level. But some people would like to go to that level. So Buddhist meditation, which will lead up to mindfulness, has 4 frameworks. You can pick up any of these things. But I would suggest if you would like to practice, you might pick up one of the mindfulness of body practices. Here you can see breath meditation, posture meditation, awareness, full awareness, and there are so many practices here, right? So normally we encourage people to practice breath meditation. Keep in mind, next Wednesday, September 24th, we're going to have a meditation session under the graduate class. So you all welcome to come to that meditation session. There will be a flyer, hopefully Gavin may be able to spotlight that at the end of this talk. This meditation is for everybody, newcomers, if you want to learn Buddhist meditation. We're going to be having it at NGF Hall. There is that Dila Costa, Horatio Dila Costa School of Humanities Faculty Building, NGF. If you would like to come, it will be happening from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. with a break. So we can talk more about it. So one of the meditation with regard to body is breath meditation. I think that is enough. You will learn more later. And then what about feelings? Buddhism looks at feelings in 9 ways: happy feeling, unhappy feeling, neutral feeling. Not even that. Unwholesome happy feeling, wholesome happy feeling, right? And there are so many ways to look at feelings. If you can look at your feeling with regard to wholesomeness, unwholesomeness, that itself will become a meditation, which is called Vedananupassana. Third part of the meditation, if you would like to pick up that one, mindfulness on thoughts. Buddhism looks at thoughts in 16 aspects. Let's say you are having a lustful thought. Whenever you are having a thought of letting go, when you are having a hatred thought, when you are having a distracted thought, Buddhism says you can pick up that one thought and look at it, get into the contents of that, looking at a diagnostic model, why it is happening to me, what can I do now, how to get rid of this thing. So every thought can be looked at in that diagnostic model. That will become Chittanupassana, one of the mindfulness practice, meditation practices. Even one practice is enough. And you can see the 16 thoughts. And then finally, mindfulness of Dhamma. This is a little bit bigger context to practice meditation. Say for instance, in our daily life, we are going through hindrances according to Buddhism: sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, remorsefulness and restlessness and doubts. So each time when I cannot see the reality, because my reality is blindfolded by these 5, if I am thinking that I need to look at why I cannot see the reality as it is, why I see things as I am, why cannot I see things as they are. There is a problem because I am blindfolded by these 5. So then if I go in that approach, that will also become a meditation which is coming under mindfulness of Dharma. But that Dharma is not Dharma that is teachings of anybody. This Dharma is another meaning called phenomena. Alright, so I think now the main 4 types of meditations. We cannot go there until we practice a fair amount of the previous 6. That is how we are going to get to the right mindfulness. Any approach that cuts this process, that bypasses this process, will fall into some amount of wrong mindfulness. Okay, this is what will happen to someone who is practicing meditation mindfulness. In this process will come to certain blissful states and finally attain Nibbana. Revisiting the question, what counts as wrong mindfulness? Attempting to cultivate right mindfulness in isolation without grounding it in the preceding 6 factors: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right living, right effort, results in wrong mindfulness. Such a detached practice cannot lead to right concentration. Rather, it produces wrong concentration, much like the Hindu absorptive practices that the Buddha explicitly critiqued. I would like you to think about these 2 questions. If you are practicing, am I practicing meditation mindfulness that liberates, or mindfulness that just comforts me? That's one question to think about. Second, what is lost when ethics, sila, and wisdom, panya, are removed from meditation and mindfulness? Right? It's not like that you have a full cream powder and you remove the fat part and you're selling at what do you call non-fat milk or maybe fortified milk. But how we look at it, if we look at the cream of the meditation and you sell it as a low fat, no fat milk, right? Something to think about, right? Conclusion part, that's the last area. The Noble Eightfold Path begins with right view. Since right mindfulness is a later factor within this path, one must first cultivate right view and then gradually progresses toward right mindfulness to discuss. Each factor is cultivated step by step, leading up to right mindfulness and finally right concentration, enlightenment, nirvana. Sequential practice ensures strong ethical and mental foundation, prevents the risk of wrong mindfulness, micchā-sati, that arises when mindfulness is isolated from the other path factors. With maturity, all 8 path factors are practiced together as a complete framework. So if you are a newbie, beginner, you will start by one. But when you have a certain amount of fair amount of practice, then you practice simultaneously. You can't do some right view today and next month right intention. Then by December you practice right living. No, you have to practice all them together to make it really effective. However, for a beginner, newbie, one may need to produce sequentially from the first to the 8th factor before integrating all 8 together thereafter. Right mindfulness is sustained and guided by right view, right effort, and right mindfulness, 3 supportive path factors which I mentioned already. Also, the Noble Eightfold Path, wherein which right mindfulness is a path, is not a linear process but mutually reinforcing. What is a linear process? Good begets good, bad begets bad. No, I mean this is a non-linear process, because it might go here like a zigzag way. So that means path can be directive, but the way how people will practice can have a ripple effect, which might not lead into a linear process. True mindfulness is realized only within the harmony of the whole Noble Eightfold Path. You cannot strip out, you cannot bypass the Noble Eightfold Path, the preceding factors. You must engage. Secular mindfulness should incorporate elements of right mindfulness, sammā-sati, to remain more faithful to its original context. This is my observation. Moreover, studying right mindfulness for the scholars, beyond both secular and contemporary Buddhist mindfulness, movements offer a more fruitful area for scholarly inquiry into the subject. So I would ask to go beyond Robert Wright's observation of why Buddhism is true, published at the Yale University. We have to go beyond that secular versus Eastern mindfulness, because you can't always brandish that Eastern practitioners are not practicing to the extent that how they practice in their own way, cultivating mindful speech, cultivating intent, all are meditation, mindfulness. So you can't make Western mindfulness to be the original signature mindfulness practice in the world. 3 signs of right mindfulness I am going to summarize, just to leaving you some room. Right mindfulness must entail ethics, sila, and right mindfulness should be connected with wisdom. Of course, right mindfulness is connected with sila, tied to sila, wisdom, ethics and wisdom, and it should help someone gear towards liberation. My references to posters and Jackson's article, Interpreting the Virtues of Mindfulness and Compassion, Contemplative Practices and Value-Oriented Business Ethics, under Humanistic Management Journal, and Kabat Singh's book, that was the starting point of secular mindfulness, Full Catastrophe Living, Using the Wisdom of Your Body and Mind to Face Stress, Pain, Illness. And I picked up Chandogya Upanishad for Hindu reference, Lokeshwarananda, and also Majjhima Nikaya MN2 Sutras. I quoted Jnanamoli Bodhi, because my solemn wish, may our practice of mindfulness lead not only to calmness, wrong mindfulness, but to wisdom and liberation, right mindfulness. And a big thank you to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gangodawila, for that insightful lecture. We now open the floor for both online and on-site participants for a few questions. To our on-site participants, you may approach the microphones on the side of the hall. To our online participants, kindly use the Zoom chat feature for your questions. Thank you.
I will give this mic to him too, if somebody has a question to ask. No, you stay here. Jamila, keep this mic until you finish when you talk. You say, if somebody want to ask you that. Yeah. So please, if you have a question, please type in under the Zoom chat. I can see, I can answer. If anybody here has a question, I can answer here too. So they can ask questions by unmuting, right? They can unmute and ask questions too, right? Yeah. So if you have a question, raise your virtual hand and unmute and talk. Yes. If you would like to message, maybe type in a message under chat. Okay, I got a question here. Right? Oh, I see. Put that this way. Okay, content. Okay, the question is, how does the concept of right effort in Buddhism balance the cultivation of wholesome mental states with the avoidance of excessive striving or attachment to outcomes? Very interesting question. Now, when you practice right effort, I use a word for that. That's my own coining. Effortless effort. That means when you practice your your Dhamma journey, you need to have a very good understanding about balancing out your energy. I will give you an example story. This story is with regard to a Buddhist monk. There was a Buddhist monk called Sona, S-O-N-A. He was a Veena player before he became a monk. So he thought Just like he plays the veena as a perfectionist, he can practice meditation and he can attain nibbana. So, but he was trying to be very much perfect. Every time he wants to be perfect, he loses his focus. And he thought, I better go back to become a veena player. Why should I become a monk? Then he was approached by the Buddha. And then the Buddha asked him, I know you are going to disrobe, but may I ask you a question? When you were a veena player, you were a very famous, very reputed veena player, assume that there were two hypothetical situations. One is that, what if you play your veena with your strings too slack, too loose? Were you able to get the sonic music at that point? You are not putting your strings too tight, but at that point, when you make your strings too slack, too loose, were you able to get the sonic sound? He said no. What if the other way around? What if you keep your strings too tight? Were you able to get the sound too? He said no. Then the Buddha said, in the same way, if you are too excited about meditation, so excited, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to be mindful, you will never meditate because you are too excited. But if you are too lazy, you can also meditate. So it's very important, individually speaking, you need to monitor whether you are too excited or you are too lazy. So that is what I can say. So many questions came in. That is what I say by right effort. But in order to do that, balancing out activity, I suggest you to look at the prevention, removal of the akusala state, unwholesome states regularly, scan them in your regular life, and also develop, innovate, wholesome side. So through those 4 frameworks, and by balancing out overexcitement and then zero energy, energy, you will do right effort. Next question, is it appropriate to study middle way treatise Nagarjuna in isolation? Well, Nagarjuna was a later Buddhist philosopher, Mahayana Buddhist philosopher. I think I would suggest you to get to the bottom of early Buddhism, because Nagarjuna picked up, he was living in 4th century BCE in Kashmir. So it's better to pick up middle part from the context I shared with you, that is the original Pali Sutra, and then to discuss about Nagarjuna philosophy if you are a philosophy student or philosophy staff. Yeah, better to pick up it first. Don't try to integrate in the first place. And as you understand the Noble Eightfold Path, then you can think about how to compare it with the Nagarjuna Madhyamika philosophy. Thank you for your lecture. Would you have further suggestions, resources for those interested in further comparing Hindu mindfulness with Buddhist mindfulness? If I am not mistaken, there is not enough research done with regard to this angle, perspective. You can see Western mindfulness and then some other very hardcore Buddhist mindfulness. Perhaps I cannot think about anything off my mind. Dr. Ibana asked me already if I could make this presentation as an article into Buddhi. Maybe one day. So we will see. My question is whether we can also use the 10 commandments. Oh, this one I am not familiar. Jesus' beatitude, aside from or instead of the Eightfold Path. I don't know about Jesus' beatitude. 10 commandments I know to some extent. If you find some parallels as counterparts, yes, you could do. If you put Noble Eightfold Path on one side and then 10 commandments on one side and also Jesus' beatitude, if you can see certain similarities, yes, you could do that, because you don't want to be a Buddhist. So you see the parallel versions and incorporate and then try to manage it. In an era where being politically correct and not offending someone with mainstream ideologies is prevalent, how does the Buddhism teach us to promote the truth? Well, Buddhism asks us to First, purify our views. Our views must not be fanatic, intolerant. Our views should be able to see the bigger picture of all aspects of political correctness. Left side, right side, conservatives, liberals, whoever. Don't become a part of any of those ideas, because once you become a part of it, you see everything as red or maybe green. You won't be able to see something beyond that. You'll be part of that cohort, maybe a political cohort, maybe your own cohort. Buddhism asks you to transcend your views, not attaching to your views, but understanding what they are talking in the main cohort, and to develop a more wholesome, holistic, harmonious view. So that is what I can say. And Buddhism also asks us to think about that truth has to be understood not only from its naked way, like how the media is reporting. There is a murder happening and reporting everything. What is the censorship of that report? Don't we have to censor certain part of that report and then to show to the people? So Buddhist truthful speech is not reporting what just happened exactly sometimes. Sometimes we have to censor unnecessary sensitive parts. Nowadays it's not happening. So understanding how to present the naked truth through ethical means is one thing, and not become a part of any political ideologies, especially left wing, right wing, conservative, liberals. So you should become someone much more holistic than these two. But when it comes to the election, you vote for somebody. Right? That's what's happening. What can you say about methods of Christian meditation, which is heavily used in the spiritual exercises of Saint Ignatius? May it be considered as a correct appropriation of proper? I'm not a scholar about Christian biblical meditation, but if you think that these Noble Eightfold Path factors are kind of encouraged within their presence parameters, yes, of course. So once again, I want to tell you that you don't have to be a Buddhist to practice any of these things. So don't worry about this, whatever those your things, your labels. Alright, that's everything here at this moment. I don't know if there are any other question over here. Yes, please. Can you please bring the mic? Yes. And take this mic too.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chandima. I'm Renas Anandras. I handle student affairs and services here. There's a new service we're rolling out, which is mediation service. I've been in this mission for more than 3 decades. And I see a spike in interpersonal conflicts, in conflicts between people. That's why we're setting up the mediation conflict resolution service. And when you said ethics, I used to teach philosophy also before undergraduate philosophy. And the first thing that I saw was its association with the Kantian universality of means, kingdom of ends, freedom, which I see a lot in the conflicts that we encounter. There's a lot of insistence on one's freedom, but weak on the universality of means. It's my way or the highway.
Yeah.
And so is it aligned, the Kantian ethical and this? I see a lot of alignment. And so may
I can give a
get
Buddhist
your
answer, not from the Kantian philosophy.
Yeah.
What I can
Thank
say
you.
is in today's world, we are highly talking about freedom of speech, especially heavily relying on the Western perspective, and a lot of things are happening because of the free speech. I think what is happening could be that people are not accommodating other people's views. This is the very problem in today's world. Not that I have to agree with what you are talking. Maybe I disagree, but why should I stop you in talking? I think there is no compassion layer in today's world. I mean, when we talk about the freedom, we also have to respect the other person's freedom, whether it is good or whether it is something that you agree or not agree. I think we have to bring a certain accommodation. We have to increase the accommodation level in this society. And that is what Buddhism says in the Noble Eightfold Path. What is tolerance? I tolerate means I accommodate you. So I think it's better to bring that tolerance and then accommodation part through that rolling out service. So I think not that everybody has a moment to talk. Yes, you can talk. Why don't you accommodate other people's perspective too, right? Academically speaking, maybe socially speaking, politically speaking. But we also have to create some ethical parameters too. Don't step over to other people's sensitive zones, right? There are sensitive zones, right? So ethics, under ethics, covering the sensitivity, and then accommodation. I think in my understanding now what we want in this world is compassion. We have to go beyond mindfulness now. There was an era about mindfulness last 20-30 years from Jodh Kaban Singh and Buddhist teachings. What is not happening? People are very mindful. Even someone who is shooting someone is very mindful wrongly, planning many days, right? How to do this, how to get rid of that person. That is wrong mindfulness. What we need is right mindfulness and compassion. My mindfulness, my focus has to be channeled towards a worthy, compassionate, ethical cause. Not that my mindfulness will become something just like how a cat is trying to catch a mice, a rat, or a crane is going to catch a fish, waiting for a couple hours to catch the target, right? So we have to go beyond that. So definitely ethics, accommodation part. I think they should be very interesting things to to add into the activity if possible.
Thank you.
Yes. One more question here. As a psychology student who has learned mindfulness in the context of clinical practice, do you think there should be any changes to how clinical practice integrates mindfulness? Yes. Now, for the last 30 years, psychology has been more about disorders. They were talking disorders, phobias and disorders. What are the way outs for the disorders? Why are you not talking about mental health? You are only talking about a fraction of mental health. There's a disorder. Even someone is not able to change, you have a disease, you have a problem. That's a disorder. When someone cannot accept something, yes, you have a sickness. That is a disorder. You medicalize, over-pathologize everything. Now, the last maybe 10 years, psychology has going towards evolving into mental health in more positive perspectives too. So I think definitely they should blend Noble Eightfold Path into that perspective. This is one of the main emphases of my class actually, every Wednesday happening for psychology students, every Wednesday from 2 to 5. So they must blend certain aspects. Another question, how can we go about learning Buddhist psychology? Yes, I'm doing a course. If you are a student, I don't know, it's too late. You can join. At the moment, this course is happening already for a couple of weeks. Maybe you can look for a Buddhist meditation course, Buddhist psychotherapy course. Maybe you get in touch with me, I can give you more advices, maybe it's guidance. Last two questions. In an era, okay, we have answered that. Just a follow up. Does it mean we should never choose one side, left or right? Why should we choose? Why should we become isolated in our views? Buddhism always asks us to keep our views free, available, while having our ethical base to understand what's happening. If I'm in the right wing, I will be right wing for the rest of my life. If I'm in the left wing, I'll be in the left wing. There are pros and cons, but the best thing is you will vote for somebody, but your ideology has to be something that transcends conservatives and liberals, because conservatism and liberalism come through their political agendas, but your views as a scholar, now we have a term called scholarly practitioner. That's an interesting term. You are not just an academic, you are an academic, but you are a practicing academic. You don't indoctrinate, you balance out. So better to become, I don't say it's neutral, because you have your own holistic idea, but stay neutral to liberals and conservatives, right? You make your own ideology in that holistic way. Last question. I would like to first upload your comprehensive discussion. I'm curious as to what actions, principles belong to wholesome thoughts in the purview of right mindfulness, other than what has been discussed. Okay, there are three. I think I can show you one last time. You are asking right thoughts is going to be here. Yeah, you can see over here. Thought or intention of renunciation. We should be able to practice thoughts of letting go, because we retain a lot of things. We are juggling with our past memories. That's the first thought. The second one is intention of non-ill will. There are lots of hatred going online in today's world. Maybe ill will, thoughts of wishing suffering on somebody. Buddhism always says you can't wish suffering on anybody. So that kind of a beautiful thought. And intention thoughts of non-cruelty, thoughts of not bullying other people, not harassing other people. These are the three important wholesome right intentions or thoughts. Okay, I think that's everything. I think almost in 20. Yes. So no other questions, right? Any questions over here? There's one here. I think somebody wants to ask. Just Justin? No, they are just saying. Oh, good. Okay. We can go to the next one. There are no questions here.
Thank you so much to our speaker, Dr. Gangodawila, for your time and expertise. And thank you to everyone who joined us in today's lecture. We look forward to seeing you again at our next events here at the Department of Philosophy in Ateneo. Thank you and good morning.
I want to add something too before we upload. Thank you everybody. Thank you Dr. Strebel for this arrangement. This was part of our agreement before. And I want to thank you for Dr. Provi, I don't know whether you are here, for arranging all these students, grad students to come here. And Ms. Tony and Mr. Jomel, he was with me yesterday to prepare all this, although we had this audience today. Thank you everybody. Yes, so thank you. Have a very good day. Yes. One more thing I think we have to say. We have the Buddhist meditation as a practice, like a session, next Wednesday from 2 to 5. You all are welcome. There will be a formal post happening maybe in the department social media post, maybe through Blueboard as well. So please register by that time. But at the moment you can reserve the date. September 24th, 2 to 5 in the NGF room, Horatio Pilapustapit. Thank you everybody. Have a good day. Yes. Thank you.